been people who stand in this position that I hold and with absolute certainty just declare all of these things that are absolutes in this world. And even like prophecy, oh, the world's going to end in 15 days, or this is going to happen. And when I look at this, I'm like, we see dimly. We don't have a full picture. We're doing our best. And I read a quote earlier this week that talked about, be careful the mirrors that you allow to be reflected back to you. And I think of like one of those fun house mirrors that, have any of you ever been in a carnival and you've been in those mirrors? And you like really like the ones typically, well, I'll speak for myself. I like the ones that like, I'm like super slender and really tall. You know, that's how it was when I was 10. Something happened after I turned 11. I lost all my height. But you know, we like certain ones that put us in this really good light. And then you've got the ones that like, you know, make you short and very round and like low to the ground. And you're like, I'm not staying a second in front of that thing. And then sometimes you really like the ones that make your body look all like skewed to all different sizes. And those make you laugh. But the thing is that I've been reflecting on when I think about love is, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself here, but we have to be careful of the people that we allow even to speak into our lives. We have to be careful to know that the people who are speaking to us actually have genuine love for us. Because they may speak something to us that's a distortion of who we actually are. There are so many people now who from this position here live with a distorted image of themselves because they think they are worthless. They think God thinks of them as these teeny tiny peons that matter very little. And I take a position that God says, you are a masterpiece. You are worthy of so much love and so much kindness. But if we're not careful and we listen to certain people or certain positions, we may have a distorted image. Or sometimes it could be. I could have somebody puffing up my ego so much and just saying, oh my gosh, you are the best pastor I've ever heard. Your sermons are on point every week. And I may think that I am this slender thing. And y'all are all looking like, huh, she doesn't know a thing about reality. You know, or I could listen to those who are just like, do you even prepare? Do you even care? Do you even like pray? What is going on? What, you wear that? Why don't you wear a robe? And then all of a sudden I could have this image of myself as though I'm what I'm not. But what I want is I want to be in a community around people that are full of love, who are willing to be loving enough to say, hey, I noticed that maybe you sounded a little angry last week. Are you okay? Or I saw some tears when we were praying. Can I sit with you? Not because you want anything from me, but because you care about me. One of the things that I've learned, and I'm getting way ahead, but as I've reflected on love, I think when I come to my definition, you do not have to accept Ashley's definition. This is just it's a working understanding for me. But to truly love someone, to truly love a community, to truly love anything, it is to truly get to a place where I love you so much that loving you is so important and wanting the best for you is so important to me that even if your best does not include me in your life, then I'm going to wish you well, and I'm going to keep hoping and praying for the very best in life for you. Sometimes I've heard different perspectives when I've talked to elderly couples, and there's some who are just like, when my spouse dies, I want them to find love as quickly as they can after, because I don't want them to be alone. I want that for them. And then I've heard others who are like, if they find somebody somebody else quick, I'm going to haunt them from the grave. And so there's a joy in that, and there's a humor in that. But the more I think about this, I'm like, if I truly love someone, then I want the best for them, whether they set me free or not. There's that tension between a parent and a child when that college season comes up and that letting go. There's some who are like, get out of here, spread your wings and go. But there may be others that are like, I can't let you go. I don't know what life will be like without you. We got some fingers pointing in the crowd today. But yeah, so that's what I think. But I also think, when I'm thinking about love, we have to first, as individuals, to go back to the opening prayer, we have to have love for ourselves first before we can ever hope to love another. And I think it has to work in community too, but do we accept, are we willing to begin working to accept that God made you as an absolute masterpiece and to live out of that reality? It's Ephesians 2:10. For you are God's workmanship, or the translation I love to use is you are God's masterpiece. You were created in advance for good works. For good works.
Ashley,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for that, first of all. The word forgiveness comes to my mind. As I'm
That'll be
thinking
next
about
week. So.
Trying to be a congregation, we're going to have conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have our feelings. We've got to learn when those things happen, how to make healing happen.
Yes.
Instead of going our own way.
Mm-hmm.
After a while, we won't have anybody here but one person.
Yep.
I don't know why I got so serious. Enough of that.
Yeah. No, there's feeling coming up in that. That's good. There's emotion. So.
That's critical.
Mm-hmm.
That's critical.
It is. We have to be willing to talk to one another. Love requires moving towards one another. So.
I'm finding that it's such a contradiction to join a church and a body. The body of the congregation is the church. But to gather together with people and you acknowledge you want to be there. And as soon as you run into somebody who says something that offends you, or they didn't agree with you, or somebody feels one way about a flag, or somebody feels another way about a hymn, and you don't have the time in your heart to say, I respect that person's right to feel whatever they want, and they are the focus of the love and the forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow, people start walking out on that blessing of that congregation because they don't like what someone has said. It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. If we're not mature enough to be able to embrace one another in our disagreements, then why do we come to church?
Yeah.
Why do you claim to love God and not invest in that?
Yeah.
There's a point at which you have to say, am I going to die and arrive in front of Christ and think that all of the stuff that I didn't work out before I got there is somehow going to instantly be forgiven, and you haven't done the hard work. The hard work is that it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good to say I'm sorry. It doesn't feel good to say I was wrong. It doesn't feel good to say, oh, I made a mistake. I hope she'll forgive me. Something happened to me which was really, I always use myself, forgive me. It sounds like self-indulgence sometimes. When I was in Italy, and it was during COVID, and there was this young black woman, and we were in the same hostel. It was unreal. I mean, I can tell you stories about that experience, but I don't think she liked me too much, but somehow we locked horns, and it became a huge brouhaha. And I mean huge. She threw something of mine around that she grabbed. I screamed at her, and the whole hostel was aware of this confrontation. But as the days followed, I realized my involvement in it. And I went to her and I said, I'm so sorry that I was so sharp with you. And I can't give you the exact words.
Sure.
But I went to her and asked her forgiveness. And here we are, different culture, different language, different people, different everything. And the manager of this hostel was stunned because he hadn't seen, I guess, someone apologize to someone else.
Yeah.
And she had a very hard time accepting that I apologized to her. But at the same time, it didn't matter at that point who had done what to whom.
Yeah.
We were in close proximity. We were all in danger. People were dropping like flies, going to the hospital and dying.
Yeah.
And the very idea that we were having trouble dealing with one another because of the tension and all the things that were going wrong.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to take responsibility. I can only say that the end result was that the respect I felt coming toward me from other people was such a blessing. Because as hard as it was, and it was difficult because this particular person was very difficult, I felt. But coming to me as forgiveness too, for my participation in it,
Yeah.
was such a gift. And I can only say that it helped me grow up a lot.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into forgiveness more next week for sure. Yes.
I would just like to say, is this on?
That one of them may go off,
The one to the left.
but we can pass this one just because we know this one's working.
Can you hear this?
Nope.
I'm not sure what's going
can
on
round it
because
out.
I'm not used.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to thank Ron many years ago. Was that enough? Ron said it's a blessing to have someone in your life who loves you, warts and all. And I don't know about y'all, but all the perfect people, raise your hands. Come on. No, I'm the same. I'm not perfect. But it's a blessing to find somebody in your life who loves you, warts and all. And with that, that's how Christ is. He loves you, warts and all. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We're two.
You just got volunteered as a runner. I'm just kidding. We can pass
Love
it.
is not self-seeking. And even in a one-to-one relationship where you have someone who loves you, warts and all, besides God, it's not perfect. But we need to always be able to come back to it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, I've referenced before, but it's the Kingdom Ethics book by Dr. David Gushee, and in this he recommends a book called the book is called The Spirit and the Forms of Love. It's by Daniel Day Williams. And Williams gives 5 different dimensions that are necessary for love. And I found these to be incredible. And it's not talking about romantic love, although it can be included in that. But the first dimension is real otherness, which has been hinted or alluded to today. It is the individuality of the person loving and of the person being loved. Loving someone else must not mean that my selfhood is destroyed or absorbed in the other, or that the selfhood of someone else is destroyed or absorbed in me. This is another thing that I think in religious spaces we've done a lot of damage, in that sometimes there's this idea that if you come to this particular church, you therefore must believe everything exactly as we believe it. You must want to worship exactly as we worship. You must want to bow or kneel or stand or whatever posture we take. That is what you are to therefore assimilate into as well. And we invite this, or almost expect conformity at times, which doesn't allow for individuality, for otherness, or for honest conversation and dialogue. Which is why we've gotten to a place where if we disagree, we sometimes will just leave, because we can go find somewhere that we can blend into, or that will do things. But I think allowing for people's individuality is so important, with the goal of being loving, of being patient, of being kind, of not being self-centered. The second one is freedom with limits. We cannot give ourselves authentically to another in love without the will to assume the demands and risk which are present. It says, love must affirm and accept the freedom of the other. Nothing is more pathetic than the attempt to compel or coerce the love of another. I have to tell you that the first church that I worked at, long time ago, I'm unpacking everything in my first office. I'm a young 20-something, and I remember one of my coworkers comes in. Again, this is a very large church, and he says, welcome to the job where you get to learn how to manipulate people. And I was like, I think I may have the wrong job. And what he meant was essentially, because I was working in student ministry, and he's like, you really got to learn how to make people want to work with teenagers. You're going to have to figure out how to manipulate them to make them think that they're going to want to work and do this, which still is not great. I want people to serve because they want to serve and they have a heart to love and care for people. I had another church right within the first month or so of being on staff, and it was my first time having the title of pastor attached to my name as well. And the senior pastor came to me one day and he's like, all right, you need to know that now people consider you a celebrity. Basically, he's like, you need to make sure that you are shaking hands with everyone, that you are greeting every single person that comes in, because people have you now on a pedestal. And I remember thinking, this is the second church where I am not comfortable with the things that are being told to me and the roles that I am supposed to play that don't, in my mind, align with Jesus, that don't really align with love. And so I love greeting people. I love shaking hands. I love doing those things. But I'm not here to be a celebrity. I wasn't in that church to be a celebrity. I'm not in this one. I'm not a celebrity. But what happens sometimes is that if a church or if any group of people begins to elevate any leader of any kind on any kind of pedestal, again, it's why I don't like standing in that pulpit and why often I don't, is because if we elevate someone, then the individual who is being elevated can have control over you. And you can maybe seek their affirmation more than you're seeking God's. That's why I use the word invite. When I asked this summer, I'm like, okay, I invite us to sit in the middle, or I invite us to pray for your own heart, your own mind, your own body when we're gathering collectively. I won't demand. It's not my place to. It's my place to invite us to freedom. The third thing was acting and receiving or suffering. We do not love unless our personal being is transformed through the relation to the other. This is hard, but it's true. There can be no love without suffering, in the sense of being acted upon, being changed, moved, and transformed by the actions of another. Any experience of love includes the discovery of the other through what the other suffers for, with, and because of me. We're always going to be impacted by one another. We can try to turn off emotions. We can try to distance ourselves and say that others don't affect us, but maybe some of you have reached that level. I haven't. People and their words and their choices and their actions do impact me. The fourth is the power to change the other and be changed by the other. And then the fifth is that there will be impartial judgment and justice. But first, real otherness. That's a dimension that's necessary for love, if we really create space for one another to be who we are. And I think there's beauty in that, because if we actually begin to make space for one another, to make space for difference with respect and centering on love, it'd be a really beautiful place. The uniqueness that could happen, we wouldn't all look the same, we wouldn't all sing, we don't sing the same. We have very different voices in here, and I love it. But what if we made space for more and didn't always expect conformity? So one other question. I've got a lot, actually, but the conversations were really great, so I appreciate all who have spoken and those who've had thoughts and maybe held them in. That's all right, too. But there's this big piece to love within the Christian community, within what Jesus teaches, that is a little bit or a lot different than the love that we tend to know, and it's love for our enemies. So when you think about that, do you think that that's unrealistic? Did God instruct us to do that just because, oh, this is what you're to aim for, but you're never going to attain it? Or do you think it was actually meant for us to do that?
Isn't that the ultimate?
Is that the ultimate?
The ultimate.
Maybe. Yeah.
I was just thinking about your song this morning, Let Peace Begin With Me.
Mm-hmm.
You can say that about love. And I thought of the Bible verse about love your neighbors as yourself.
Yes.
And I think it all comes back to yourself. If you can love yourself and you understand love and you understand that God is love,
Mm-hmm.
then that will spill out. If you show love, you will receive love.
Yeah.
And it's give and take, but it all flows down to God's love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
If God loved us while we were yet sinners,
That's a cool way to phrase that.
In that same passage, Paul identifies us as having placed ourselves in a position of being enemies of God.
Mm-hmm.
And yet Christ died for us.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I'm there yet, so that I can say that I love like God in that
Sure.
way. But I think part of that enemy love allows forgiveness, allows us to go to another person and
Yeah.
say, I did you wrong.
Yes.
And I place myself in a position of being your enemy. I don't want to be that anymore.
Yeah.
And if there's not enemy love, then enemies cannot become friends.
Yeah. Thank you.
With the enemy part, don't you think that kind of goes with what you said about love and justice?
Mm-hmm.
That they have to go together.
Yeah, I think so. And I think one of the things that I've learned about this idea of an enemy is that we do at times have conflict with other people, or as we see now in our world, there's conflicts worldwide in many different places, and we're involved as well. But I think what I've learned is that sometimes those who I've been taught were my enemies, once I had an invitation to draw close to them and to begin to see that they are human too, I think there was such beauty in seeing that God's like, hey, if you'll just draw close to people that you think might be your enemy, you might actually find a friend. You might actually find that my love, while it may be difficult in our minds, if we actually take those steps toward what we consider an enemy, might we find common humanity. It's what, when I went to Morocco, one of the documents we had to study was a common word, which was written by Muslims to Christians and Jews to say, hey, look, we're taking our sacred text and your sacred text, and did you happen to know that love God and love neighbor is in all of our messaging? And what I loved about my professor that took us was when he would stand in front of the Afghan students or the Moroccan students, he would approach them and he would say, as I'm approaching Siamoy or Banin or whomever, as I'm approaching Carol, I take off my shoes, which y'all know I don't really wear them anyway, but I take them off because I'm approaching holy ground. No matter who I'm walking to, no matter what building they're in, if they're in the White House, I should approach as though I'm approaching holy ground. If they're in a jail cell, I should approach as though I'm approaching on holy ground. If they are Hindu, if they are Muslim, it does not matter. I should know that, or if they have the label of enemy over them, I should approach as though I am walking on holy ground, because I am. So I had one little demonstration, and I don't know if it's going to work because I've never tried this before. But I need somebody that can help stand up with me and make some hand motions. Yes. Come on, Rob. I was going to ask you directly, but I'm glad you volunteered. All right. So again, Ashley's kind of thoughts as I've been pondering love. I say that just because you don't have to accept where I am in this journey of understanding love. All right, but hold your hands up for you. Okay. So, I in a relationship with myself and with God, right here. It's me. I've got to know what it is to love myself. And like we can picture this as like, we're going to eventually be a Venn diagram. Those are like the circles, right? Am I using that term correctly, teacher? Yes, thanks. Okay. So we're about to be a Venn diagram, okay? But I have love within me that I am to be in commune with God. I am to love myself as God loves me. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. That part's often missed in religious spaces too. So as I am working to accept the love of God in my own heart, in my own life, as I am working to look in that mirror and say, I am a masterpiece because God made me so. Not because I'm boasting or I'm that tall, slender mirror, but because I come from a place of love. Rob also, in his love, of himself, accepting that God has created him as a masterpiece, that he has love that he has access to from God right here within himself. So we each come with love. Then, all right, so our little circles are going to kind of cross. So what I like to think about when I use the word home, because sometimes when I think of love, I think of home. And I think of home first, that home is me. My love and my home is right here. It's not a building. It's not where I sleep at night. My home is right here. So wherever I go in the world, I am always at home. You also, love, have home. When we begin to interact with other people or groups of people, we have the opportunity to share home. And we have this little space. And if we feel safe with one another, there could be room for more home to be shared, for more love to be shared. And I'm not talking about intimate love here. I'm talking about love in community with one another, being safe. And so there could be times where if Rob goes off to college, sorry mom, or to Japan, or there is still, you can know that he has love with him and within him, and that you have done an incredible job creating home within him. And it will be hard for his, all right, home, go to Japan for a minute, that when he's away, and your home stays, but that's never, he's literally going to Japan. I know, so all right, come on back. But I want you to think, I remember just sitting with my mentor, Dr. Gushy, one day when we were talking about love, and on the coffee table, I drew this, and I'm like, Dr. Gushy, this is what I now understand love to be, that I have love here, and I have home here, and I get to choose how I share love and home with others or within the community. And the more we build safety with one another, the more we build trust with one another, the more we say, I am kind, I am patient. I will not be self-seeking, I will not boast. I will not delight in evil, I will seek truth. Then there can be these shared spaces of love, of home, together with one another. Thank you so much for being a living Venn diagram with me.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we will close in a song, and then I'll come up and offer the benediction.
I'm going to ask Carol, instead of doing that, since she brought up the circle, why don't we do our circle and bless be the time?
Yes.